welcome, my weary dreamers. Tonight, we embrace the spirit of Carpe Deum as we delve into the final days of Antony and Cleopatra. In a world brimming with opportunity and peril, this iconic couple seized each fleeting moment amidst the chaos of their doomed romance. So, get cozy as we step into the shoes of the legendary couple themselves and the messenger who carried the weight of their tragic end. The harbour of Alexandria stretches before me like a crescent moon, its blue waters rippling beneath the morning sun. I have been to many ports across our expanding empire, but none compare to this meeting place of worlds where Rome's practicality collides with Egypt's ancient splendour. My name is Hermes, not by birth, of course. My mother called me Titus Valerius Priscus, but when I became Caesar Octavian's trusted dispatcher, the men began calling me after the messenger god. The name suited my swift feet, and some say my silver tongue. Today, I carry words that will shape history. As I disembark, I clutch the sealed documents in my satchel. Octavian's terms for Marcus Antonius, not Antony, as his soldiers affectionately call him, but Marcus Antonius, private citizen of Rome. Caesar's wording is deliberate. The man who was once triumvir, once consul, once the most celebrated general in Rome, has been stripped of titles in these carefully crafted letters. Alexandria does not appear to be a city under siege. Not yet. But I see the signs. Fishing boats return too quickly with meager catches. Merchants hurry with anxious glances toward the western road, where our legions will soon appear. The granaries are being guarded by doubled forces. A royal escort awaits me at the harbour's edge. Egyptians with spears and golden collars, standing beside grim-faced Romans in Antony's service. How strange it must be for my countrymen to wear Egyptian ornaments while serving a Roman master who himself serves an Egyptian queen. Dispatches from Caesar, I announce, using Octavian's preferred title, though he has not yet formally claimed it. The escort leader, a hard-faced centurion with a scar running from temple to jaw, nods without warmth. Antonius has been expecting you. Follow me. As we walk through Alexandria's wide streets, I cannot help but marvel. Rome may be the center of power, but Alexandria is the center of learning and beauty. The great lighthouse still towers in the distance, though today its fire is unlit. The marble buildings gleam white against the blue sky, their columns both familiar and foreign, Greek designs infused with Egyptian motifs. We turn toward the royal palace quarter, and I wonder, not for the first time, what I will find there. What remains of the great Marcus Antonius, the hero of 100 battles, Julius Caesar's most trusted general, now reportedly lost in luxury and wine? And what of Cleopatra, the queen who bewitched two of Rome's greatest men? As I approach, something catches my eye. Crude graffiti marking the walls surrounding the opulent structure. One Latin phrase appears repeatedly among the Egyptian hieroglyphs and Greek letters. Carpe Diem, I mutter to myself. Seize the day, for tomorrow is uncertain. For Antony and Cleopatra, I suspect, their tomorrows are dwindling rapidly. The palace gates loom before me, and I await entry to the golden prison of a man who'd once been one of Rome's greatest generals. They call me the drunkard now. They whisper it behind jeweled fans and marble columns, the Romans with contempt, the Egyptians with pity. Let them whisper. I have earned my wine. The cup before me is empty again. A slave refills it without my asking, the sweet red liquid catching the afternoon light through the palace windows. Outside, Alexandria continues its nervous preparations. Inside, I continue my patient dissolution. Tell me again about Philippi, Your Excellency, says Sosigenes, Cleopatra's astronomer, who has taken to keeping me company during these afternoon drinking sessions. He is an intelligent man, curious about warfare, though he'd never held a sword. Philippi, I say, the name alone conjuring the thunder of hooves, the metallic ring of swords, the screams of dying men. That was glory. That was Rome as she should be. I close my eyes, and I am there again, younger, stronger, commanding Rome's left wing against Cassius, the assassination of my friend Julius Caesar fresh in my mind, vengeance making my arm strong. I broke Cassius's lines like they were made of sand, I tell Sosigenes, not boasting, but simply stating fact. When word reached him that his camp had fallen to me, he killed himself in despair. And later, when young Brutus saw his cause was lost, he fell on his own sword as well. What I don't say is how I honored Brutus in death, despite his betrayal of Caesar. How I covered his body with my own cloak, recognizing a worthy Roman even in my enemy. Such sentiments seem foreign to me now, buried beneath years of Eastern luxuries and political necessities. The room falls silent, except for the distant sounds of the city and the gentle splash of wine entering my cup once more. That victory made me and Octavian masters of Rome. I continue, the bitterness rising in my throat. 2 young men dividing the world between us. I took the east, he the west. I should have killed him then, when my name still commanded more loyalty than his. Sosigenes shifts uncomfortably. The queen approaches, my lord. I straighten instinctively, though I make no move to set aside my wine. Cleopatra enters with her usual grace, attendants falling away from her like water parting around the prow of a ship. Despite everything, the siege approaching, my falling fortunes, the whispers of both our peoples, the sight of her still quickens my blood. My Roman, she says, her voice carrying the slight accent that I have come to find endearing. I am told Octavian's messenger has arrived. Hermes, I nod, a clever young man. I met him once in Rome, before everything changed, before Actium, where my fleet, our fleet, broke against Agrippa's naval genius, before my legions began deserting me for a younger, more fortunate Caesar. What terms will he offer? Cleopatra asks, taking a seat beside me. For me, death or exile, dressed in diplomatic language. I drain my cup. For you, submission. for Egypt? Absorption, I reply. Rome has hungered for Egypt since Crassus. Your grain, your gold, your ports. Octavian will not leave without them. Cleopatra's face reveals nothing, but I have learned to read the subtle tightening around her eyes. She is calculating, always calculating. It is one of the things I have loved about her, so different from Roman women with their carefully cultivated domestic virtues. I first saw her in Tarsus, arriving on her golden barge with silver oars, purple sails billowing in the breeze. I had summoned her as Rome's representative to answer charges of supporting Cassius, but from the moment she stepped ashore, it was clear who was truly in command of our meeting. Do you remember Tarsus? I ask her suddenly. A smile touches her lips. I remember a Roman general trying very hard to look unimpressed. I failed spectacularly at that. Yes, you did. Her hand covers mine briefly. We will receive this messenger tomorrow. Tonight, we dine as we always have. Like kings and queens, I say, while we still are. Like kings and queens, she agrees, rising. Carpe Diem, my Antony. It was a phrase I taught her years ago, taken from the poet Horace. Seize the day. We have seized so many. Bright days of victory and passion, dark days of defeat and perseverance. Now our days grow short, and Octavian's shadow lengthens across the Mediterranean toward our door. Carpe diem, I reply, reaching for the wine. Dawn breaks over Alexandria, my Alexandria, painting the limestone buildings in shades of gold and pink. From the balcony of my private chamber, I can see the curve of the harbour where the great library once stood before Caesar's fire. So much knowledge lost in the flames of Roman ambition. My handmaiden, Iris, arranges my hair with practiced fingers, applying subtle kohl around my eyes. Today, I must be every inch the queen, not for the messenger, but for my people who watch for signs of weakness, for Antony, who draws strength from my confidence, and for myself. The blue diadem today, I instruct her, indicating the royal band studded with lapis lazuli, and the robe with the golden thread. Symbols matter. Octavian understands this. He does not style himself king or emperor, yet wields more power than either. I have ruled for 22 years by understanding that perception often outweighs reality. Is it true what they say about Octavian? Iris asks as she works. That he lives simply, like a common citizen? It is his newest performance, I reply. Julius dressed like a king and was killed for it. His nephew learned the lesson well. I have never met Octavian, though I knew his great-uncle intimately. Julius was flame, where reports suggest Octavian is ice. Julius conquered through boldness and charm. Octavian conquers through patience and calculation. Both are equally effective, though only one inspires love. There, Iris says, stepping back to examine her work. You look divine, as intended. The people of Egypt see their queen as a living goddess, the incarnation of Isis. The Romans find this amusing or blasphemous, depending on their temperament. Antony alone seems to understand that divinity is simply another aspect of rule, neither believing nor disbelieving, but accepting its utility. I dismiss Iris and sit alone with my thoughts before the day's business begins. My children are are safely away from Alexandria, a precaution I took after our defeat at Actium. Caesarion, my son by Julius Caesar, nearly a man now, and the three I bore Antony, Alexander Helios, Cleopatra Selene, and Ptolemy Philadelphus. Their futures grow more uncertain with each passing day. When I first met Antony, I expected a political alliance like the one I had with Caesar. Useful, occasionally pleasant, ultimately pragmatic. I did not expect to find in him a kindred spirit, a man who embraced life with the same hunger I did. I did not expect love. A soft knock at the door interrupts my thoughts. "Enter," I call, composing my features. Charmian, my most trusted advisor, steps in with a scroll in hand. "Reports from our eastern border, Your Majesty. Herod maintains his neutrality publicly, but has sent supplies to Octavian's army." "Herod hedges his bets," I observe, "prudent if disloyal. There is also word that Octavian has spoken against you in the Roman Senate, not just against Antony, but against you specifically." This is not surprising, but still stings. What does he call me? Witch? Foreign temptress? "The Egyptian woman," Charmian says. "He refuses to use your name, referring to you only as the Egyptian woman who has bewitched a once great Roman." I laugh, though there is little humor in it. How clever. He makes me nameless, reduces me to my foreignness. I stand, smoothing my robes. Well, this Egyptian woman has ruled her kingdom longer than Octavian has ruled anything. Remember that when we meet his messenger. As I make my way through the palace corridors toward the throne room, I pass the chamber where our remaining treasure is kept. After Actium, we converted much of it to fund our defenses, but enough remains to maintain the appearance of prosperity. Appearances, always appearances. The throne room awaits, sunlight streaming through high windows onto marble floors. Antony is already there, looking more sober than usual, dressed in Roman military attire, rather than the Greek clothes he has favored in recent years. Another calculated choice. He presents himself as Roman to a Roman messenger. As I take my place on the royal dais, our eyes meet briefly. In that glance passes an understanding that has grown between us over the years. Whatever comes, we face it together. "Announce the messenger," I command, and the great doors swing open. I have delivered messages to kings before, but never to a queen who sits as an equal beside a Roman general. The throne room of Alexandria's royal palace is a study in carefully balanced symbolism, Egyptian hieroglyphs alongside Greek motifs, with just enough Roman eagles to acknowledge Antony's heritage. "Hermes, messenger of Caesar Octavian," the herald announces, his Egyptian accent transforming my Latin name into something more exotic. I approach the dais and bow, deeply enough to show respect, but not enough to suggest that Octavian considers them his superiors. Such nuances matter in diplomacy. "Rise, messenger," Cleopatra says in perfect Latin, "and speak your master's words." I straighten and unroll the first scroll. "Caesar Octavian sends greetings to Queen Cleopatra of Egypt and to Marcus Antonius, citizen of Rome." Antony's jaw tightens at the deliberate omission of his titles, but he says nothing. Up close, He is both more and less than his reputation suggests. His legendary strength is evident even in repose, but his face shows the marks of recent dissipation, the redness around his eyes, the slight puffiness beneath them. Cleopatra, by contrast, appears every inch the ruler, composed, regal, her famous beauty subtle, but undeniable. She is not the temptress of Roman propaganda, but something perhaps more dangerous. A woman of evident intelligence, watching me with eyes that seem to dissect my every gesture. I read Octavian's message, couched in formal diplomatic language that does little to soften its substance. Surrender, or face destruction. Antony is offered exile to Athens if he relinquishes all claims to power. Cleopatra may retain her throne if she executes Antony herself and acknowledges Roman suzerainty over Egypt. When I finish, silence fills the vast chamber. The Queen's expression remains impassive, though I notice her fingers tighten slightly on the arm of her throne. Caesar is generous, Antony says finally, his voice tinged with irony. Athens is pleasant this time of year. And does Caesar's generosity extend to my children? Cleopatra asks, her voice cool and controlled. I hesitate. Octavian gave me no specific instructions regarding this question. Caesar is known for his clemency, Your Majesty. I am certain arrangements would be made for their care. Their care or their execution, Antony interjects. Caesarion has a stronger claim to Julius Caesar's legacy than Octavian ever did. Do you think he would allow that threat to remain? I maintain my diplomatic composure. I convey messages, Marcus Antonius. I do not make policy. A convenient position, Cleopatra observes. Tell me, Hermes, what do you see when you look at Alexandria? Not as Octavian's messenger, but as a Roman who has traveled the world. The question catches me off guard. I see a great city, Your Majesty, perhaps the greatest in the world after Rome itself. And what would Rome do with such a city? She presses. Improve it, I answer automatically, then realize how that might sound. That is to say, no need to correct yourself, she interrupts with a small smile. I understand Roman improvements quite well. New aqueducts, new temples to Roman gods, new tax collectors. Antony laughs suddenly, a booming sound that echoes through the chamber. You see, Hermes, this is why she rules and we merely fight. She sees beyond the sword to what follows. I find myself warming to them despite my loyalty to Octavian. There is something compelling in their presence. Not just power, but a certain vitality that seems to fill the space around them. We will consider Caesar's terms, Cleopatra announces, rising from her throne. You will remain as our guest until we provide our answer. I am instructed to return within 3 days, Your Majesty. And so you shall, she assures me, with our response. Until then, you will be shown every hospitality Alexandria can offer. As I bow and back away from the dais, Antony calls out, Dine with me tonight, Hermes. A private meal, Roman to Roman. We have much to discuss that might not be suitable for formal dispatches. I look to Cleopatra, expecting disapproval, but she merely nods. An excellent suggestion. The messenger should see both sides of Alexandria, its Egyptian heart and its Roman appetites. That evening, in Antony's private chambers, I discover what he meant. Gone is the formal general from the throne room. replaced by the legendary host of Roman stories. A small feast is laid out, wine flows freely, and Antony himself reclines on a couch, more Greek in his manners now than Roman. "Sit, sit," he urges, gesturing to another couch. "The food here is excellent, Egyptian cooking with Greek influences, like everything in this remarkable city." I accept a cup of wine, noting its superior quality. "You seem to have adapted well to Alexandria, Marcus Antonius." "Antony," he corrects. "My friends call me Antony, and tonight we are friends, not representatives of opposing sides." He raises his cup. "To Rome, whatever version of her survives this conflict." I drink to the toast, though cautiously. "You speak as if Rome herself is at stake, not just your position within her. Isn't she?" Antony leans forward. "The Republic died with Caesar, Hermes. What Octavian builds in its place will determine Rome's soul for generations. Will it be a Rome of lists and executions, of careful bookkeeping and provincial management? Or could it be something grander, a Rome that embraces the best of all her conquests?" His eyes are clear despite the wine, passionate in a way I hadn't expected from reports of his decline. "You believe your vision of Rome could have prevailed?" I ask. "I believe it still might, in some form." He gestures expansively. "Look around you. Alexandria is what Rome could become. A true center of the world, not just its conqueror. Science, art, philosophy flourishing alongside military might. Some would call that corruption of Roman virtues. Some lack imagination." He refills his cup. "Did you know the library here contained before Caesar's fire, works from every corner of the known world? Knowledge Rome doesn't even know it needs." As the night progresses, Antony speaks of battles won and lost, of his friendship with Julius Caesar, of his first meeting with Cleopatra. He is, by turns, boastful and self-deprecating, brilliant and melancholy. I begin to see why men followed him so devotedly for so long. "She's extraordinary, you know," he says, suddenly, his thoughts turning to Cleopatra, as they seem to do inevitably. "Not just beautiful, though she is, but her mind. I've known generals who couldn't strategize as effectively. She speaks 9 languages. 9. I struggle with Greek despite years here." "Roman rumors paint a different picture," I observe carefully. Antony laughs. "Roman rumors? Yes, she's a witch who ensorcelled poor Antony. Much simpler than admitting a woman, a foreign woman, might simply be more capable than most men." He drains his cup. "You'll meet with her again tomorrow. Judge for yourself." Later, as servants escort me back to my quarters, I find myself thinking that whatever else he may be, Antony is not the dissolute wreck Octavian's reports described. There remains something of the great general in him, something that might yet pose a threat if properly roused. I wonder if Octavian knows this, and if that knowledge drives his determination to see Antony eliminated, rather than merely defeated. The horns sound before dawn, Roman horns, their brassy voices carrying over Alexandria's walls. I am already awake, the familiar pre-battle clarity, having replaced yesterday's wine-soaked haze. My armor feels heavier than it once did, or perhaps it is merely the weight of what today represents. "They've reached the western approaches," Rufus reports, my last loyal centurion. He has been with me since Gaul. 3 legions visible so far, more arriving by the hour. I nod, buckling my sword belt. And the Egyptian forces? In position, though. He hesitates. Speak freely, old friend. Their hearts aren't in it, General. They'll fight because the Queen commands it, but they know what's coming. What's coming is the end, one way or another. Octavian's 3 legions will soon be 5, then 8. My remaining forces are a patchwork, loyal Romans intermixed with Egyptian troops and foreign mercenaries. We are outnumbered, outmaneuvered, and fighting with our backs to the sea. Yet as I walk through the palace toward the stables, I feel a curious lightness. Months of uncertainty are ending. Battle focuses the mind wonderfully. No room for regrets or might-have-beens when men are trying to kill you. Cleopatra awaits by the palace gates, surrounded by her guards. She has forsaken her royal regalia for a simpler dress, her hair bound back practically. This is not the queen who dazzles from a throne, but the ruler who manages grain shipments and tax collections. The mausoleum is prepared, she says without preamble. We have discussed this contingency. Her royal tomb, recently completed, has been stocked with treasure and provisions. If the city falls, she will seal herself inside rather than be captured. It won't come to that, I tell her, though we both know it likely will. Antony. She steps closer, her voice lowering. If you should fall, I'll send word, I promise. You'll have time to secure yourself and the treasure. What remains unspoken is that Cleopatra has been consulting with her physicians, procuring potent poisons, and even keeping a venomous asp close at hand, all in preparation for a noble suicide should the worst befall us, ensuring she will never be paraded as a captive through Rome's streets. I cannot blame her. I've seen such processions, seen proud kings and queens reduced to spectacles before jeering crowds. She reaches up, her hand cool against my cheek. Fight well, my Roman. But if retreat serves better than glorious death, choose retreat. I would rather have you alive at my side than glorified in memory. I cover her hand with mine. When did you become so practical about glory? When I realized I preferred your snoring to heroic eulogies, she replies with a flash of humor. We kiss briefly, aware of the eyes upon us. Then I mount my horse and ride toward the western gate, Rufus and my remaining officers falling in behind me. The day passes in the familiar chaos of battle. Octavian, no, his general Gallus, for Octavian himself remains prudently distant, tests our defenses systematically. We repel the first assaults, even manage a successful cavalry charge that sends their left flank into temporary disarray. By midday, I allow myself a moment of hope. We might hold them off longer than expected, perhaps force better terms. By afternoon, that hope dies as 2 more legions arrive from the south, threatening to encircle us. I order a fighting retreat to the secondary defensive line, losing men with every step back toward the city center. Sweat stings my eyes. My sword arm aches. I am no longer young, and the years of Egyptian comfort have taken their toll. Yet some muscle memory remains, some remnant of the general who broke Cassius's lines at Philippi. I cut down a standard-bearer, rally a faltering Egyptian phalanx, drive back a Roman centurion whose face is vaguely familiar. Perhaps someone who once served under me. As dusk approaches, disaster strikes. Our Egyptian cavalry, positioned to protect our right flank, suddenly wheels about and rides east, away from the battle, not retreating, but deserting, their commander having evidently struck a deal with Octavian's forces. "Sound the general retreat," I order Rufus. "We can't hold with the right flank exposed." "The men are still fighting well," he protests. "Which is why I want them alive for tomorrow," I snap. "Sound the retreat while we still have order." The withdrawal becomes a rout, though my Roman veterans maintain discipline, forming a protective rear guard as we fall back to the city. Night falls as the last of our forces pass through the gates, which close with an ominous finality behind us. In my command tent, hastily erected in what was once a public garden, I receive the casualty reports. Too many dead, too many captured. Our effective fighting force reduced by nearly a third in a single day's fighting. A messenger arrives as I'm washing blood, mine and others, from my arms and face. "From the Queen," he says, handing me a sealed tablet. Inside, written in Cleopatra's precise hand, "The Egyptian fleet has declared for Octavian. I have withdrawn to the mausoleum with the royal treasure. Send word of your condition. With enduring devotion, Cleopatra." The Egyptian fleet, our last significant military asset, now turned against us. With the fleet goes any hope of evacuation or resupply. I sit heavily on a camp stool, the tablet dangling from my fingers. This, then, is how it ends. Not with a glorious last stand, but with betrayal and gradual disintegration. Rufus enters without announcement, his face grave. "General, there's more news. Unless it's the sudden death of Octavian, I don't want to hear it. It's the Queen, sir. There are rumors spreading through the city that she's dead, that she took poison rather than risk capture." The world stops. My heart constricts painfully in my chest. "When?" The reports are confused. Some say at sunset, others more recently. "Her message to me came after sunset," I say, holding up the tablet. As I said, the reports are confused. Rufus hesitates. "But they're spreading rapidly. The Egyptian troops are laying down arms in response. They fought for their queen. With her gone..." I stand abruptly. "Find me confirmation. Send someone to the mausoleum." But even as I give the order, doubt gnaws at me. If she saw our retreat from the city walls and believed all was lost, Cleopatra is nothing if not decisive. An hour passes in agonizing uncertainty. Reports continue to arrive, each worse than the last. The eastern quarter has surrendered. Roman troops have breached the outer harbor. Egyptian officials are presenting themselves to Octavian's representatives, offering submission. Finally, my messenger returns from the mausoleum, breathless and wide-eyed. "The tomb is sealed, General. The Queen's personal guard surrounds it. They say..." He swallows hard. "They say her body is being prepared according to Egyptian custom inside." The tent blurs around me. I steady myself against a table. "Leave me," I manage to say. "All of you." When they've gone, I sink to my knees, a sound escaping me that I barely recognize as human. Cleopatra. My Cleopatra. Gone by her own hand while I fought a futile battle. We spoke of this possibility. But speaking of death and facing its reality are vastly different things. I think of her voice, her laugh, the fierce intelligence in her eyes. I think of quiet moments between campaigns, of our children, of plans made and now forever unrealized. My sword lies on the table where I placed it earlier. A good Roman sword, well balanced, faithful through countless battles. I reach for it, feeling its familiar weight in my hand. A Roman should die by steel, not poison, I murmur to the empty tent. I position the sword's point against my abdomen, one thrust, angled upward toward the heart. A soldier's death, honorable, if not glorious. My hand trembles, not from fear, but from a sudden, overwhelming clarity. All my life, battles fought, glories won, mistakes made, distilled to this singular moment. I will see you soon, my love, I whisper, driving the blade home. The pain is immediate and intense, but also strangely distant. I fall forward, blood spreading across the tent's floor. It takes longer than expected. My thoughts wander. Somewhere in the growing darkness, I hear shouting. Rufus's voice. Others, hands lifting me. Movement. Consciousness returns in fragments. I am being carried. There are stairs, steep and narrow. Torchlight flickers against stone walls. Still alive, someone says. The mausoleum, says another. Then, impossibly, her voice. Bring him to me, quickly. The darkness recedes momentarily. I see her face above me, pale but very much alive, her eyes wide with horror. Antony, she whispers. My Antony, what have you done? They said you were dead. My voice sounds distant to my own ears. A rumor. A lie. Her tears fall on my face. I am here. I am alive. Good, I manage to say. That's good. The pain is fading now, replaced by cold that creeps from my extremities inward. I know what this means. I have seen too many men die on too many battlefields not to recognize death's approach. Listen to me, I say, summoning my remaining strength. Negotiate with Octavian. He wants Egypt intact. Use that. Save yourself. Save our children. Don't speak. Save your strength. Her voice breaks. No time. I reach for her hand, find it, clutch it with fading strength. You were the best of my life, the very best. And you of mine, she whispers fiercely. The cold reaches my chest. My vision narrows to her face alone, everything else fading to darkness. Seize whatever days remain, I tell her. Carpe. The word dies on my lips as darkness claims me. They have taken his body away for preparation, according to Roman custom. My chambers feel cavernous without his presence. Antony, who filled every space he entered with his vitality, now gone, now silent. 3 days have passed since he died in my arms, his blood staining my gown, his last words urging me toward life when every instinct pulls me toward death. 3 days of negotiations with Octavian, conducted through intermediaries while I remain sealed within the mausoleum. Iris brings me wine, which I wave away. Any word from Caesar? I ask, the title feeling strange when applied to anyone but Julius or Antony. His messenger Hermes awaits outside, my queen. Send him in. Hermes enters cautiously, his eyes taking in the mausoleum's interior, the treasure stacked against walls, the provisions, the narrow windows through which archers could defend against intruders. And I, seated on a simple chair that is nevertheless recognizably a throne. Queen Cleopatra, he bows. Caesar Octavian sends his condolences on the death of Marcus Antonius. How generous, considering he caused it, I reply coolly. Hermes does not rise to the provocation. Caesar requests a personal audience. He wishes to assure you of his good intentions toward you and your children. Does he? I lean forward. Tell me, Hermes, you who observe so carefully, what are Octavian's true intentions? The messenger hesitates, weighing honesty against duty. Caesar intends to return to Rome in triumph, he says finally. A triumph requires captives of suitable status. He intends to parade me through Rome's streets. Yes, Your Majesty. You and your children, I believe. I nod, having expected nothing else. And after this triumph, what then? Exile? Execution? Caesar has not shared those plans with me. Hermes looks genuinely regretful. But he has promised you will be treated with dignity. Dignity, I repeat. Like Vercingetorix, strangled in his cell after years of imprisonment, once his usefulness as a symbol was exhausted. Hermes has no answer for this. We both know how Rome treats defeated enemies. Tell Octavian I will meet with him tomorrow, I say finally. Here, in the mausoleum. He may bring 2 attendants. I shall have the same. After Hermes departs, Charmian approaches from where she has been standing quietly in the shadows. You cannot trust him, my queen. I don't, I assure her, but I must see what manner of man now rules the world. Julius, I knew intimately. Antony, I loved deeply. Octavian remains a cipher, described variously as cold, calculating, merciful, and ruthless. And if he attempts to seize you during this meeting? I gesture to the chest beside my throne. Then the asp does its work, and Egypt's last Ptolemy queen joins her ancestors on her own terms. That night, alone in my chamber within the mausoleum, I write letters to my children with instructions for their tutors, to the Egyptian priesthood, confirming their privileges, and finally, a private message to Octavian himself, to be delivered after my death. Morning comes too soon. I dress with care in full royal regalia, not the simplified Greek styles I often favor, but traditional Egyptian royal garments. The heavy collar of gold and lapis lazuli, the diadem of Upper and Lower Egypt, rings on every finger. If I am to meet Rome's new Caesar, I shall do so as Egypt's true queen. Octavian arrives precisely at the appointed hour. He is younger than I expected, smaller in stature, with none of Antony's physical presence or Julius's charisma. Yet there is something in his careful movements and watchful eyes that suggests a different kind of power, patient, methodical, inexorable. Queen Cleopatra, he greets me, his Latin precise and unaccented. I am pleased we may finally meet in person. Caesar Octavian, I reply in equally flawless Latin. Alexandria welcomes you, though the circumstances are unfortunate. Indeed. He glances at the 2 chairs arranged for our conversation. May we speak privately? I gesture to the chairs. My attendants withdraw to a respectful distance, as do his, a process that leaves us nominally alone, though still within sight of our people. I have heard much about you, Octavian says once we are seated. My great-uncle spoke highly of your intelligence, and your adoptive father spoke highly of your cunning, I counter. It seems we both met expectations. A faint smile touches his lips. Direct, as reported. Very well, let us speak plainly. Egypt will become a Roman province. This is non-negotiable. I assumed as much. Your personal fate, however, remains undetermined. He studies me with clinical detachment. Cooperation would be rewarded. What form would this cooperation take? Public submission, acknowledgement of Rome's authority, perhaps testimony against certain senators who supported Antony. And in return, your life, comfortable exile, protection for your children. I laugh softly. You must think me either desperate or naive, Octavian. Your great-uncle made similar promises to Vercingetorix and others. Rome's promises to defeated enemies have proven flexible. I am not my uncle, he says stiffly. No, he had the grace to lie convincingly. Anger flashes briefly in his eyes before his control reasserts itself. You misunderstand your position, Queen Cleopatra. You have no leverage here. Don't I? I gesture around us. We sit in my mausoleum, surrounded by Egypt's treasure. I have already demonstrated my willingness to die rather than submit. That is a form of leverage, the freedom of one who has nothing left to lose. For the first time, uncertainty crosses his face. You would abandon your children? My children are Ptolemies, and the offspring of Roman leaders. They will never be safe while you rule, regardless of what promises you make today. We regard each other in silence for a long moment. I see calculations happening behind his eyes, weighing the propaganda value of my capture against the risk of my suicide, measuring the impact of each potential outcome. 3 days, he says finally. I grant you 3 days to make your arrangements and bid farewell to your kingdom. Then you will accompany me to Rome, where you will be treated with the respect due your station. I incline my head, neither agreeing nor refusing. 3 days is generous. I am not the monster Antony painted me to be, Octavian says, rising. I admire capability and courage, even in my enemies, perhaps especially in them. Then we understand each other, I reply, also standing, for I too admire efficiency and determination, even when it operates against my interests. After he leaves, Charmian approaches, concern evident in her face. What did he offer? What all conquerors offer the conquered, life without dignity or death with it. And your choice? I turn to gaze out the narrow window toward the harbour, where Roman ships now outnumber Egyptian ones. The great lighthouse still stands, though its fire burns for new masters now. Send for the basket of figs, I tell her, and prepare my royal garments, the finest we have. I shall meet my ancestors as a true daughter of Egypt. When? She whispers. I think of Antony, of his courage at the end, of his last words to me. Carpe Diem. Seize the day. Tomorrow, I decide. One final night to put my affairs in order. Then we seize our fate before Octavian can claim it. That night, I write my final letter to Octavian, to be delivered with my body. It is brief, dignified, explaining my choice in terms even he might understand. A queen does not become a trophy. In the morning, I bathe in perfumed water, dress in my finest royal garments, and take my place on a golden couch. Iris arranges my hair with the royal diadem. Charmian places the basket of figs beside me. "Are you certain, my queen?" she asks, tears in her eyes. "I have ruled Egypt for 22 years, I tell her. I have loved 2 of the greatest Romans of our age. I have borne children who carry the blood of both Egypt and Rome. I have lived fully, Charmian. Now I choose to die the same way." I reach into the basket where the asp lies hidden among the fruits. Its bite is swift, painful, but brief. As the poison spreads through my veins, I think not of kingdoms lost or triumphs denied, but of Antony's smile, of our children's laughter, of moonlight on the Nile. Darkness gathers at the edges of my vision. I hear Iris collapse beside me, having taken her own life. Charmian adjusts my diadem one final time. "Is she not divine?" I hear her ask someone, perhaps a guard, perhaps only the gods. I never hear the answer. Egypt fades. Antony waits, and I go to him. The news reaches me as I am preparing dispatches for Rome. Queen Cleopatra is dead by her own hand, her body discovered by Octavian's guards when they came to escort her to a ship bound for Rome. Her handmaidens found dead beside her. The royal regalia in perfect order, a queen to the last. Octavian's reaction reveals more than he perhaps intends. Beneath the public expressions of regret lies fury. Fury that his greatest prize has escaped him, that his triumph through Rome will lack its centerpiece. He orders the royal children secured immediately, particularly Caesarion, who has his grandmother's red hair and his father Julius Caesar's name. I write it all down faithfully, recording the end of an era for the Senate's archives. Egypt has fallen. The last of the Hellenistic kingdoms founded after Alexander's conquests now belongs to Rome. Antony is dead. Cleopatra is dead. Octavian stands unchallenged. Yet, as I walk through Alexandria's streets one final time before our departure, I cannot help but feel that they have achieved a different kind of victory. The people speak of them in hushed, reverent tones. Already, stories spread, some true, some embellished, all contributing to a legend that I suspect will outlive Octavian's carefully constructed monuments. In the harbour, fishermen claim to have seen the Queen's ghost boarding a phantom ship, Antony waiting to receive her at its helm. In the markets, traders from distant lands ask for details of their final days, eager to carry the tale back to Parthia, to India, to lands beyond our knowledge. I find myself at the foot of Cleopatra's mausoleum, now guarded by Roman soldiers. Octavian has ordered their bodies interred together, not from sentiment, I suspect, but to contain their remains in one manageable location, preventing separate shrines from arising. A stonemason works nearby, carving what will become their epitaph. I pause to watch him, wondering what words Octavian has chosen to mark their passing. What will it say? I ask. The mason glances up. 2 names, 2 dates, nothing more. Nothing of their deeds, their rank. He shrugs. Those were my orders. Simple, unadorned. Of course, Octavian understands the power of narrative. To elaborate on their epitaph would acknowledge their importance. Better to render them ordinary in death, regardless of how extraordinary they were in life. As I turn to leave, an old Egyptian approaches, watching the mason with rheumy eyes. He speaks to me in accented Greek. They will be remembered, he says with quiet certainty. When the stone crumbles and Rome itself is but a memory, they will be remembered. For what? I ask. For losing? The old man smiles. For living, for loving, for choosing their fate, rather than submitting to another's design. He taps his chest. Carpe Diem. That was their motto, you know. Seize the day. How do you know this? Everyone in Alexandria knows it. The Queen made it part of her final message. I did not know this, that Cleopatra left words beyond her suicide. Octavian has kept this detail from his official reports. What else did she say? I ask. The old man's smile deepens. That true victory lies not in conquest, but in living authentically. That she and Antony seized every day granted them, and that in death they seized eternity. Whether these are truly her words or Alexandria's embellishment, I cannot say. But as I make my way back to the Roman encampment, I find myself hoping they are genuine. Rome will absorb Egypt. Maps will be redrawn, taxes collected, history written by the victors as it always is. Yet something of Antony and Cleopatra escapes this neat resolution, something that speaks to the heart rather than to power, something about seizing life rather than merely preserving it. Carpe Diem. In the end, perhaps that is epitaph enough.